Hey BookTube, this is Friday Reads. I'm Jen and I talk about audiobooks, and I was gone last week, so I didn't do a Friday Reads. I was in Phoenix for actually the worst vacation ever. It was so awful because we thought we were going to go to the sunshine and the warmth of Phoenix, and it was cloudy and freezing and rainy. Not the best for vacation. But you would have thought that I would have gotten a lot more reading done, like on the plane, in the airports, but I didn't, oddly. So I don't have that many books to tell you about, but I'll start with This Mortal Coil. This is by Emily Suvada, and it is narrated on audio by Skye Bennett. Skye Bennett is a British actress, and this is her first book. And I have a lot of grace for a narrator who is learning, but she had a lot of the elements right, but she didn't have most of the finessing right. Like, for example, she is a Brit and she did a great American accent. I was really impressed with that, but she used the British pronunciation on several words. The first one I really noticed was the country in Central America that I would refer to as Nicaragua. She called it Nicaragua. That just sounded wrong to me. Yeah, and there were other words too that just would draw me out of the story, and I didn't like that. And she made the main character sound so angry all the time, and I know she was just trying to inject emotion into the story, but I didn't care for that at all. I thought that you know, overall, this could have used a better narrator, a different narrator. It would have made my experience with the book a lot better. As it was, she's just got some growing to do when it comes to narration. So, you know, like I say, gotta have some grace for the ones that are learning, and at the same time, gotta make some changes if you are one that's learning. Okay, this book is a pretty decent YA dystopian / post-apocalyptic story. And it is about people who have computers in their forearms, and they can program into this computer any changes that they want to make about themselves. It centers on a girl whose dad is a master coder. So he is able to write all kinds of apps that people can use to change the things about them. And so there's this corporation that wants him. He used to work for the corporation, and they want him back in order to find a cure for a virus that has been released in the general population, and it's bad, it's killing everybody. And if you'll look at this cover, that's actually a person who is exploding. A person that's exploding. Ugh. The plot thickens from there, and it gets kind of complicated. She is one of those special snowflake characters, which that is so hard, I know, for authors to avoid, but at the same time, it's so tiresome. So she had that going on, and she would do dumb things, you know, in the name of, I'm going to sacrifice so that the general population will be saved. And it was just stupid. You know, people smarter than her were telling her, don't do that, don't do that. And she'd do it anyway. And those kind of characters just annoy me, because I don't ever like to feel smarter than a character. It did end on a good cliffhanger, and I did like that. All in all, the story is pretty good, actually, if you can forgive all those other things. So I probably would have rated it 4.5 stars if the narration had been different, if the story hadn't had those little, you know, ticky kind of problems. So I gave it 3 stars. It had its problems, let's just put it that way. Everywhere and Every Way is by Jennifer Probst, and it is adult romance. It is book 1 in her Billionaire Builders series, and it is narrated from 2 points of view by Sebastian and Madeline Maby. I really liked these 2 narrators. Sebastian, you know, he's like Julia Whalen for me. Initially, I thought, oh, no, I don't like them. And then I listened to more of what they've done, and then I like them better. So interesting the way that that's working out. But he was good. He was perfect for this main character. He owns a company that's a construction company. And so There is a woman who is a designer to the stars, and so she comes and has to talk him into building a house for some clients, and she's a short little dynamo. She isn't taking any guff from anybody. So it's the cute story of their romance. Kind of your standard stuff, but good enough that I wanted to read the rest of the series. I haven't picked it up yet, but I'm interested. There are 2 more books. They follow 2 of the brothers of the guy who is the main character here. I just think it's going to be good. I liked this one a lot. I ended up only giving it 3 stars, but it's the high end of 3 stars. I enjoyed it a lot. Eleanor, Oliphant is Completely Fine is literary fiction by Gail Honeyman. On audio, this is narrated by Cathleen, McCarron. I didn't care for the narration overall. I got a ways in, probably I don't know, 25% of the way in, and I put it aside and I got the ebook instead. I just didn't think that Eleanor's voice matched up with the narrator's voice, and it was just one of those pitch, sounding, enunciation, overall kinds of things where it just didn't match. The more I got to know Eleanor, the less I thought she sounded like this woman. I ended up not liking this as much as I thought I would. The character of Eleanor is very damaged, and she's very much of a survivor, and it's pretty much we meet her and then she morphs and changes and grows into this person at the end that you really like, but I didn't like her very much. I think some of this is coming from a very British, Scottish, UK kind of tone, and that tends to be a lot more emotionally detached than maybe, I don't know, a book set in the US. I know that's a gross generalization and certainly not always true, but I don't know. I tend to find that that's the case. And I read this because Lisa said, you need to read this book. It's so good. It was the best book of last year. And I was sad that I didn't think the same thing, that I didn't pull the same thing from it. It's the kind of book that probably is better after you read it and you start talking about it. Kind of like Monty Python and the Holy Grail, which is a lot funnier after you see it and then you start talking with your friends about it. It's less funny when you watch it. Anyway, so I ended up giving Eleanor 3 stars. I think that's a solid 3 stars, maybe 3.25. It is very well written. Gail Honeyman is Scottish, and this is her debut novel. And, you know, I think for that, it's won all kinds of awards, and rightly so. It's just not something I loved. That's the thing. It's not a bad book. I would recommend this book, but it didn't wow me like I thought it was going to. Hooking Up is by Helena Hunting. This is narrated from 2 points of view by Jacob Morgan and Muffy Newton. And I love the narration, but this book, I did not care for it at all. It's adult romance, but it involves cheating and it's kind of crude and it had sex, graphic sex in it just for shock value. And I just didn't care for that at all. There were situations that happened in the book that were just cringy. And I didn't like that. I thought, no, it didn't endear me to the main characters at all. So I ended up giving it 1 star. Infraction is by Rachel Van Dyken, and it is book 2 in her Player's Game series. This is narrated from 3 points of view by Jeremy York, Sebastian York, and Carly Robbins. I liked the narration a lot, but I have some caveats. First of all, Carly Robbins kind of bugs me with her narration. The thing is, for emphasis, she will talk and she'll get really emotional and then she'll back way off. And you hardly catch that last part because she just drops back to a whisper. And I know why she's doing it, and it's very effective in terms of the emotional impact. But, you know, you can't hear her, so that kind of bugged me. Other than that, she was very good. I thought she captured the character really well, and I enjoyed that narration. Jeremy York basically voices this guy that's a tight end for a football team, but he's huge. And Jeremy York didn't fit this character very well. his voice really wasn't deep enough. He sounded more like a guy that works in an office and not a football player. So yeah, that left a little to be desired. You kind of had to adjust the way that you thought about the character, which I didn't like. I don't like having to do that, because when a character is described to me and I have an impression of the way that they should sound, I want them to sound like that. Sebastian York plays a quarterback, and he sounded like this character. And so overall, I would say the story was wonderful. I really liked it. I think it got kind of over the top at the end. I would call this one new adult sports romance, and I ended up giving that one 4 stars, even despite the narration. The narration was good. It just didn't line up all the way. Anyway, First Frost is by Sarah Addison Allen, and it is narrated on audio by Susan Ericksen. I listened to it. I received this book as a gift, I think over Christmas. And I liked this one a lot. I had never read Sarah Addison Allen. It's women's fiction, and it has a little bit of romance in it. It's book 2 in the Waverly series, and it's about a family who has a little bit of magic about them. It's a family of women. Each one of them has a gift, and central to the story is an apple tree that is almost another character. And Susan Ericksen made all of this come alive in a wonderful way. And so I appreciated the narration. I thought that for each character that she did, it was so well done. I completely got lost in the story, and that, of course, is the sign of a really good narrator. So I really liked that. The book was not what I expected. It is about the first frost, when some notable things happen. And it's just, you know, it's a kind of little slice of life in the life of this family. So you have several main characters. It's an ensemble. And if you like this kind of thing, I think it was good. I did like it. And I want to read more of her stuff. I have another book of hers called The Peach Keeper. And so I want to read more, but not just yet. I think I have to be in the mood for this. Scythe and Thunderhead are books 1 and 2 in the Arc of a Scythe series by Neal Shusterman. This is YA dystopian / fantasy. It is narrated on audio by Greg Tremblay, and I cannot believe how good that narration was. Oh my gosh, the guy was just so good. Now, he has one of those styles where he doesn't really do voices as much as he does inflections and kind of an emphasis on the words in a different way, rather than changing his voice to sound like a character. And it worked. It worked so well with this book. Oh my gosh, these 2 books. I was so impressed, and it made the series so much better. I cannot wait for the 3rd book in this series, because I just know that narration is just, it's so good. And when you know that that's what you can expect, and you just makes you look forward even more to the book. This is about a world where humans have discovered all knowledge that there is, all of it. And as such, they don't die anymore. They are immortal. And so they create scythes, and their job is to choose people who have to die. And they call it being gleaned. Yet another time when Neal Shusterman takes an idea and he calls it something else. And so within the scope of the society and the story, you see where people are more accepting of something because it's framed out a different way. I love the way he does that. So this is all about corruption within the scythes. There is an AI that basically runs everything in the world at large. And it is a very benevolent AI that has set specific rules for itself. It cannot kill people. It cannot interact on any kind of a level with the scythes. So that those 2 things are kept very separate, kind of like church and state. So this is so good. It's about 2 new scythes and the way that they are apprenticed to 2 more experienced scythes. It's so good. It's so good. It's got so much going on. Just for the kind of YA that it is, I loved it. I loved it. I gave the first book 4 stars and the second book 5 stars. And the last book I want to tell you about is Suffer Love, and this is by Ashley Herring Blake. It is not available on audio. It is only available in print or as an ebook, and I read it as an ebook. And then I ordered it, so I waited to open it until Friday because I thought, oh, this would be fun to open on camera. So I know what it is, and I'm so excited because this book was so cheap. It was like $3. Oh, it's so pretty. It is wonderful. It is a sweet, sweet romance, a forbidden romance. I thought it was going to be kind of like a Romeo and Juliet kind of thing, but it's not. It's the story of a boy whose mother was unfaithful to his dad, cheated on his dad, and a girl whose dad cheated on her mom. And they end up in the same school, these two main characters, this boy and this girl. And the boy knows, but the girl doesn't. And so it's the story of how they are attracted to each other and how that works out. It's a wonderful story. A lot of people have said the ending is very abrupt, but I know what this author was trying to do when she wrote the ending. I mean, I got it. You know, I think when you think about it, I'm not sure it could have ended another way and been as good as it is, the way it's written. Wonderful characters, a lot of problems in dealing with the relationships between adults and young adults, their children, and the amount of responsibility they take, how hard they try to repair relationships that have been damaged. And I think adults tend to think that kids are resilient and they're going to, you know, bounce back and it's going to be okay. When in fact, there's a lot more damage that happens. And I liked the way this illustrated that. So 5 stars. Yeah, loved that. I am currently reading Lonesome Young. This is by Lucy Connors, and I'm about halfway through. I like this a lot. This is a Romeo and Juliet story about 2 families in Kentucky, around Louisville, Kentucky, but rural Kentucky. And the thing that's bugging me about this book is the fact that one of these characters just can't catch a break. He just can't catch a break. Everybody judges him based on his family and not on his own merits. And it's only got like a 3.5 rating on Goodreads. And that's kind of sad because I think it's a better book than that. I mean, Katie McGarry, who is a popular YA contemporary author, this is YA contemporary, blurbed it on the back. And so she really liked it. So, yeah, I do too. I think it's probably better than it's getting credit for. So, I mean, I'm interested to finish that one up. On audio, I am listening to 2 things. First of all, Nemesis by Brendan Reichs, which is book 1 in the Nemesis Project. It is narrated from 3 points of view by Kirby Hayborn, Emily Rankin, and Paul Boehner. So that's that's YA dystopian about a secret government project. You know, you can, yeah, surmise what it's about from there. And the third book that I'm listening to on audio is That Baby. It is by Jillian Dodd, and it's narrated on audio by Lisa Cordeleone. Within a half an hour of listening to this book, I laughed out loud at least 3 times. It is so funny. This whole series is so funny. It is the That Boy series. This is book 3. The first book is That Boy. The second book is That Wedding. And then this is That Baby. And just the main character and the way Lisa Cordeleone voices her is perfect. It's so good. It's so entertaining, so funny. These are, well, they start out as new adult romance, but they kind of morph into adult romance. That's it for last week, the week before that, and this coming weekend. I probably will not finish everything this weekend. So it'll be interesting to see what I can pick up next. I will probably finish Nemesis and then go on to Genesis, which is the second book that I've gotten from Penguin Random House, which is why I got Nemesis to begin with. So that's it for now for me. Let me know how your weekend is going, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.